Let's get more reaction now to the Finance Minister's budget speech, supplementary budget, of course. Then Cosatu's Matthew Parks does join us as well then via video link. Matthew, thank you so much for the time. Your immediate reaction then to the Finance Minister's supplementary budget. Did it answer all the answers for you?
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us. No, it didn't. We're in a massive crisis as a nation, both on the health front, the economic front, and the jobs front. We saw nothing new in the budget speech today, quite disappointingly. The economic relief measures that the minister tabled are those which the president announced a month ago. And those were designed to help South Africa, workers, the economy, to manage the COVID-19 lockdown. They're not going to take us out of the economic recession we are in now, and possibly a depression, and stimulate the economy. It's quite underwhelming. We had expected a stimulus plan to be tabled of something not less than 1 trillion rand if we were to grow the economy, to reduce a possible unemployment rate of 50%. We had expected much more detail on the infrastructure program. We had hoped the minister would tell us what exactly is government doing to reduce the 10% of the budget, 150 billion rand, that we lose every year to corruption and wasteful expenditure, to share with us the plans to stabilize the state-owned enterprises. That didn't happen. So for us, it is a huge missed opportunity, and we're going to pay the price for it as workers.
Yeah.
Workers are being retrenched left and right in the private sector and even the public sector. SABC itself is saying they want to retrench 600 workers. The minister didn't announce a single thing to help those workers today. So for us, it is a huge, huge disaster.
Yeah. He also made note of a 100 billion rand multi-year social development package, which is aimed at trying to resuscitate that jobs market. Did that perhaps offer you any kind of solace?
Not really. We don't know that is that the existing employment initiatives like the employment tax incentive or the youth employment scheme. We don't know. There's not much details. But really, the president himself had said quite correctly before, anything less than a 1 trillion rand stimulus fund is not going to cut it. So 100 billion rand over 3 years is about 33 billion rand a year. It's not going to help. We are bleeding jobs left and right.
Yeah.
And government has not tabled significant plans to grow it. But we appreciate that government itself can't print money. It doesn't have endless supplies of money. The private sector has to come to the party, especially the banks and the investment funds. And they have not come to the party in any significant way. And government seemingly is too timid to deal with them. The only money that really has been injected into the economy during the lockdown has been from the Unemployment Insurance Fund, which by this morning had released about 26 billion rand to almost 4 million workers. And that is workers' money. We had expected to see government coming to the party, the private sector coming to the party in a significant way. We simply cannot afford to play around with the 50% unemployment rate or to go and flirt with an economic depression.
Yeah, where would the 1 trillion rand come from then, Matthew, if I was to ask you that? Not less than 1 trillion. I fully, agree that that may have been a necessary figure in order to get South Africa out of the mire we currently find ourselves in. But where would the money come from?
Sure, I think about 6 main sources. One is to significantly reprioritize within the state to key frontline departments like health and transport, education.
How much would that be?
Also to deal with the tax loopholes, the tax evasion. We think not less than 250 billion rand. There is significant space within the state of a budget of 1.8 trillion rand to shift funding significantly. You need to deal with tax evasion. We're losing billions of rands every year to customs fraud, to importers who don't pay customs duty. We think you need to increase taxes upon the wealthy who earn more than 1.5 million rand a year, including inheritance and estate duty taxes. The infrastructure program, which we welcome. But again, the private sector has to come to the party through impact investments. Right now, Regulation 28 provides for up to 10% of investment funds to be geared towards investment in the infrastructure and the economy. Only 2% has been done so far. That alone could have helped generate 500 billion rand, which I think they need to do. But equally, no matter how much you raise taxes, how much you shift it, how much extra you generate, if you don't deal with the 150 billion rand you lose every year to corruption and to wasteful expenditure, then we're just moving chairs around the Titanic. What we do appreciate, though, is that government has gone to raise revenue from overseas, from the African Development Bank, the BRICS Bank, the IMF. That we support, as long as it's transparent and the conditions are not onerous. But really, we do appreciate, though, that government can only put so much on the table. the private sector now has to come to the party in a significant way, and they're not doing it. But I think lastly, whilst we support economic relief to employers, and we need to save those businesses at all costs,
Sure.
that has to be on condition that those employers don't retrench workers, and they need to be incentivized, in fact, to create new jobs. It can't be a blank check that we bail out companies, and those companies then go and retrench workers immediately afterwards.
Yeah. Matthew, appreciate the time. Really, really thankful for that. Hopefully the call is heeded and the word is sort of gotten through as well. Matthew Parks then from Cosatu, their parliamentary coordinator, joining us as well then with regards to that picture. Thank you and appreciate your time as well then this afternoon. Look, it certainly does get very difficult for South Africa's picture. We're certainly trying to find ways, any way that is, to try and boost the picture for South Africa's growth trajectory. Not only that, but certainly to alleviate the debt that we currently find ourselves in. It's a complete blowout as we find ourselves in a scenario where we don't have this kind of debt picture before. Budget deficit rising above 15% at the very least. The main budget deficit of around 14.6%. Still unprecedented. And we could see that unemployment rate spike up to around 40% if any of the estimates are something